Hi, everybody. Welcome to this new series that I've called Untangling AI. And that comes also from my book, not trying to make you buy this, but at some point I said, okay, everybody is talking about AI, but I mean, AI existed before generative AI and ChatGPT came out in November 2022, I guess. So I want to try to tell a story of what's happening in our industry, sports tech, or media, entertainment, gaming, and sport, MAGS, as I copied from AWS, and try to really understand if someone is using this technology for some real case, they provide serious benefits and improvements to what we're collectively doing, talk about the risk, etc. But as much as I can, far from bullshit and into the real world of people doing real stuff that work with fans and in sport. And to start, I have here with me Nick Meacham, the CEO of SportsPro.
Good to be with you, Carlo, again. It's always good to join you on our podcast, whether it's your show or mine. So great to be joining you once again, as always.
Yeah, and there are two main reasons that Nick is a good choice, or more, but let's see the two that are more tactical. One, when I started the Retention Zone, the video podcast focused on streaming monetization, Nick was the first episode because him and Christone on their podcast were discussing DAZN and NFL Game Pass 1 year ago, or more or less, October. That was October. So I said, oh, that's perfect start for Retention Zone. So now again, having him as a first guest seems to, so Retention Zone is doing well, so why not trying again this card of having Nick start a series? So
we must think alike, Carlo. I think we must have our fingers on the same pulse of the industry, and that's why we're covering and talking about similar stuff. So I would say that's why we're very in sync, you and I.
And maybe before we start, a quick who is Nick for the few that don't know you in this industry.
So yeah, I'm the CEO at SportsPro Media and have been for I've been with SportsPro for about 15 years. And SportsPro's a international media and events business covering the business for sports with a big focus around everything off the pitch, but in particular around media, digital, and monetization, basically around the whole sports industry space. I also host a podcast which is called Streamtime Sports, where we talk specifically around streaming and sports media and the trends and innovations around that space every week. So do check that out as well, alongside what Carlo's producing. So yeah, been around this industry for quite a while. Currently based out in Jamaica, and getting a new view on the industry, but keeping it very much my fingers on the pulse of what's going on. And AI is definitely the hot topic of 2024.
But the question for people like us is fantastic. But how do we say something that is not obvious, trivial, or said 10,000 times and just live with the hype and be irrelevant? So how do we become relevant in this? What's your view on that?
When it comes to AI, Carlo? Yeah. I mean, with the challenge with this, as someone who runs a media business, is you are talking to different subsets of the industry and different people. Some people with a really extensive knowledge in the subject matter, and some people have really no idea. So how do you serve those different groups? And I think trying to do all of them in one piece of content is near on impossible. You have to think a little bit about who you want to speak with. Is it someone who's really trying to get the head around the role AI can and can't play, or should and shouldn't play, or is it someone who's already into the thick of the industry and doing things and want to keep progressing their role and position in the market and learning new ways to integrate AI into the space? So for me, it's always about, if we're trying to be relevant and be thoughtful about ultimately who we're trying to talk to, because you can't just talk to everyone in the same commentary. I think that's really the most important way to stay relevant, is to be really thoughtful about who you want to talk to.
Yeah, so in my view, obviously, you run a media company. I'm a creator. I don't know who I am. So my approach is always, because of my role, if you want, being someone that invented, designed, build, and run products with huge teams around me, so not alone. I always try to immerse myself in things before even starting talking about it, because otherwise I'm basically just adding noise to existing noise, right? So that's one thing that for example, I would recommend to really everybody. And in this case, specifically on generative AI, where I don't want to say all, but a lot of the tools are available to everybody. So instead of, having an opinion, start using, depending on what your job is, start using or testing or playing or integrating slowly, or start interacting if you're interested in this. Otherwise, interact with these tools and as much as you can, because it's only using it, and maybe at the beginning is a small case for which you can use these tools, right? It can be on the textual side, and it can be on the image and the video side. It can be a combination of those, because more and more now the tools can understand and play with a lot of these different media together. But very often I see a new tool coming out, and I see all the opinions. And if you're into B2B influencer, you see that very often they all say the same thing. And that's a stronger case for like the gear, the scene, I don't know, whatever gear you're into, you go on YouTube and you find all these people saying the same thing. On the other end, on AI, if you don't try it for yourself, you don't create your own opinion. And even if tool A is considered better than tool B, maybe for you it's not the case. It depends a lot on what you're using them to, and how do you integrate them in your workflow or your company workflow. And this I'm talking about really using available tools as, if you want, a person in whatever you do. And there are so many ways. And just thinking that, oh, it's AI, so it's fake, it's useless, it's not human, I tend to disagree. This is a bit self-serving, but I think I create the content that is not AI of origin. Like, it's very human what I create. I use a lot of AI tools, to be honest. Otherwise, I wouldn't run something like that alone. Just to be, that's where I am, basically. Not saying that everybody has to do the same.
No, but I do think you're onto something there. I think ultimately, with a topic and subject matter like AI, is everyone has to be hyper curious. Whereas I think before you could read and learn and just listen, but you have to be curious to the point where you want to actually interact and try and get your proverbial fingers on to, and with AI to test it and feel how it can and can't work for you. So I do think it's a different sort of situation to perhaps other topics that might have come up over time, where you haven't historically, AI can basically affect everyone in different ways in any industry right today, whether it is some of the basic generative AI tools that are out there or things that are more comprehensive. So to get yourself along that journey, you do just have to get in touch and feel that technology and see what it can do for you. So I would even suggest like allocating a portion of your week to trial some different things, just to see how it works, see how impactful and how easy it is to use and adopt, whether it is something that is specifically for your job, or whether it's just to help a basic tool to help you day to day in just being a bit more efficient with time and your own work rate. So I think with AI is one of these situations where we've never seen something in the last 20, 30 years that you've like, okay, you have to go out there, not only have to read about it, you actually have to go and do. You have to actually go and touch and feel this stuff. Otherwise, you'll never really get your head around just how impressive it really is. So yeah, I think being as hyper curious as possible is really important, particularly around a subject like AI.
Yeah, and then obviously there are different levels. One thing is the direct use of AI tools by people, meaning people in organization, on your client side, by the way, on your side, etc., for different functions. But then it's also integrating these technologies in your product or in your partner product, and into understanding how you can. So there are different levels. But I think what is important is trying to understand or dissect what makes sense, and with all the benefits and pros and cons, to what is just either the hype or the laddist attitude of saying, that's dangerous, or apocalyptic, which is all scenarios that are possible. But we really need to, maybe not great to say, cut the bullshit as much as we can. It's not easy. It's not easy. Even if you want to, you may end up saying the obvious stuff, like maybe I'm saying now. But I think that's where I think, as if you want, curator of information, we have a role in that, trying to tell stories. Normally, what I do, I let other people tell stories lately, even if I talk a lot, as you notice. But I've learned how to let other people tell stories that can connect with examples that are on the market or entering the market or in the hands of fans, etc., etc.
Well, I think that the challenge you have for anyone who's trying to look at a new technology, and we see this particularly in the media industry around streaming and streaming technology and tools, is there's a lot of vendors in the marketplace. And so what ends up happening is you're asking people perhaps with more of a business background than a tech background to be able to make decisions on what tech's going to work for them and what's not. And if you've not at least got a base level of knowledge to know the right sort of questions to ask, it's really difficult to find the right solution for you in those instances, or to have the confidence to pull the trigger on something that could be really positive or negative to your business. And I think the same sort of goes with AI. Everyone needs a bit of a baseline understanding to make sure that as in more and more tools become more readily available, that you have confidence to be able to know, yep, this is something we need to implement and we're going to pull the trigger on that and move forward with using this. Because otherwise it can be a bit daunting to know what tool you want to use. And I think sometimes it's lost on both vendors and buy side, but particularly with vendors who are selling and providing services, that there's such a commitment to implement and integrate technology into different systems that they sort of disregard. Even if it's a really low cost opportunity, it still takes time and effort for a buy side organization to implement. And the same goes with a new AI tool. It might be great, it might add lots of value, but we're all very time poor these days. And to get people to understand that there's a challenge there, with particularly in the sports industry, of both understanding the technology and then having the capacity to integrate those technologies, even if they think they like it. That's why you do have to have enough understanding to be able to know, okay, this is the right thing for me, or this actually, let's it's not a priority. It might be good for us, but we can wait on that until we crawl before we can walk with using AI internally. So I think it's a bit of a tricky time, but everyone, whether you're on the business side or tech side, has to have a good understanding of what AI and other tools can really bring to the table. Otherwise, you're always going to be left a little bit uncertain.
Yeah, I think, and I agree. And with the risk implied in this case, it can be super dangerous, because if you use it I think it's very dangerous to adopt or use these things with a low level of understanding. Maybe with other technology it was not, but this one it is, like, completely. So the second reason I think it makes a lot of sense to start with you is because you're launching something new for sports and AI, correct?
Yeah, we're launching an event called SportsPro AI. The first event's going to be held in September in London. We've already had to increase the venue size because there's been so much interest in the event. But ultimately, what we're trying to do with that event, which is basically our first sector-specific or tech-specific event we've run since the launch of sort of OTT into the market several years ago, is to really go deep into the subject matter, to be able to provide different layers of content in an event setting for people who are trying to get their heads around AI to begin with, and to also really show what can AI actually do for you. And here's some examples of it in play. And yeah, as you've alluded to and we've talked about before, AI is already rampant across the industry in different ways. Some of it's just very behind the scenes. Some of it's very much cloud-based through big tech providers. Some of it's a little bit closer to home with, particularly in the sports media landscape, with highlights and content creation at play. But now we're seeing way more effort, interest, and excitement, and the technology shifting into a little bit closer to the business side around marketing, e-commerce, business intelligence, and so forth. And again, back to the points we're talking about, giving more power and capability to the business leaders in the industry. So for us, this was a natural next step for us. But what's been really unique is that AI is what we're seeing just from the data of content consumption across our own platforms. It is interesting to everyone in all corners of the industry at different levels. Whereas when we've done other things, it's typically been focused on more sector-specific content we've done and events. So both the content we're producing editorially, where we're producing over 50 pieces of news and insights every week on our website and digital channels, but we could always see there's a bit of a lean to one or two different sectors. Here, we're seeing it completely broad stroke, where the entire industry from end to end, whether it's you work in the performance sector, you work in marketing, you work in sponsorship, you work in the stadia side, and operations and delivery, everyone has an interest in this space. And we're seeing it already with the sign-ups for the event that we're running in just over 3 months' time. It's very diverse range of companies and diverse range of countries even signing up to it as well.
And in terms of where is it the length of the event, a bit of logistics?
So it's a 2-day event. It's going to be in basically in central London, where we wanted to make it very much accessible to everyone who's based across, particularly for Europe. We're also looking to launch an event in the US at the end of the year, so there'll be a US specific one coming. But yeah, 24th and 25th of September in London. We are yet to announce the venue, though we have got all the pieces in place for that. But it will be a very relevant venue for this type of content.
And there's no overlap with other events, because September, October, November is a nightmare.
Look, it's always tricky around that time. It is definitely event season. Currently, we've not seen any crossover with any events that we're worried about, but inevitably there might be something popping up at the time, and people always have to make a choice if they attend these types of things. But so far, so good, and I should be able to get over there pretty comfortably, so I'm happy with that as well.
Good. Va bene. So my idea is, again, basically based on what we say until now, I'm trying to create a series of interviews like I do with a guy with a scarf, with the retention zone. This new one is Untangling AI. This is the first episode with Nick Meacham, CEO of SportsPro. So I'll see you in September, if not before.
Definitely.
In London for the event. And let's see how these things develop, because clearly there is a bit of risk that after we had the Web3 NFT trend, hype, and boom, even if still some of those technology make a lot of sense to these days, there is a bit of, I think, fear in general that everything that is about AI is like Web3. I think having gone through that, it's not great, because now everything you do is say, come on, what do you call the event the next year? Something else. So there is a bit of risk, but I think it seems a longer one, this one. But again, we don't.
Well, I agree. I mean, we did look at the Web3 space for a while, and we integrated into some of our existing events and content. But I was very apprehensive of launching something dedicated to it, because I did think that it was ultimately going to lose that bubble of it around it. Not that it would disappear, but it would lose that bubble and be more integrated into just existing events, because it's just a technology servicing the existing sectors that are already run. Within AI, the difference really here is that it is usable for everyone in the industry. It's not just a technology that can use to power a product or a tool to sell and to service fans and an engagement here. You're talking about something that can really change the way entire organizations are operating, and it's already happening. It is already in place, because AI has been prominent for so long now. So I do think it's a different phase and stage of the conversation, and it's definitely here to stay as something that everyone's going to be using. Will the hype be here in a couple of years from now, or will it just become part of the conversation alongside general goings on B2B, the B2B conversation around just how to service the right technology and business strategy? I'm not too sure, but for now, I think everyone needs to learn more. And I'm not just saying that because I'm biased, but I think everyone needs to learn more, including myself. And one of the great things about doing these events and content is I can ask you questions to make sure you learn very, very quickly by having a lot of conversations, whether it's in this type of setting or offline. So, I'm really looking forward to riding that wave and making sure I can learn for myself on how it can improve me, our company, and indeed, hopefully, the industry, which has been looking for a silver bullet or silver bullets to help it get better at these things. And the problem with sports has had is that the shift to direct to consumer has been really, really challenging for sports to adopt and really do well, because it's coming from a third-party licensing background. To shift completely its framework has been really difficult. AI can take a lot of the legwork and a lot of the pain out of that if it's implemented the right way. Not all of it. Don't get me wrong, not all of it, but it can help. It can definitely help and take away some of the effort that has to be done internally.
Sorry. At the moment, I see it as an opportunity to explore. is it a solution for the problem in sports? I'm not sure. I'm not that positive, but okay, because it affects everything. So I don't know. But so thank you for being available, and enjoy Jamaica, and see you soon at the Sports AI event from SportsPro in London.
Ciao, Carlo. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.